The moment the lights dimmed inside the Dancing with the Stars ballroom, something electric shifted in the air, something no one could quite describe until the final envelope opened and the hosts announced the new champions of season 34. And when those words finally echoed through the room, the winners and new champions of Dancing with the Stars are Robert Irwin and Witney Carson. The crowd erupted into pure emotional chaos. Confetti rained from the rafters, the audience rose to their feet, and in that explosive moment, the young conservationist who has spent his life honoring wildlife and his family's legacy was suddenly standing in the center of Hollywood's most glamorous stage, clutching the Mirrorball Trophy with tears in his eyes. This wasn't just a win. This was history. This was destiny. This was the beginning of a story that no one, not even Robert Irwin himself, could have imagined. For the first minute after the announcement, Robert looked stunned, almost frozen in disbelief as Witney Carson wrapped her arms around him. The ballroom felt like it was vibrating. Every clap, every cheer, every scream feeding into the emotional storm now exploding. Across live television on ABC and streaming on Disney+. And right there, amid the noise and the blinding spotlights, Robert Irwin whispered the words that instantly broke the internet. "We did it." No dramatics, no performance, just pure raw truth pouring out of a 21-year-old whose life had now changed forever. It didn't take long for the host to guide the new champions toward their exclusive backstage interview with Denny Directo from your channel. An interview that would soon reveal just how deeply this experience had touched Robert. Still breathless from the win, still processing the surreal reality of what had just happened, Robert held the trophy close as he reflected on the moment. "I'm feeling such an overwhelming sense of gratitude," he admitted, his voice shaking with emotion. "This has changed my life. For the rest of my life, I take what I've learned here and I take this friendship that is so incredibly special, and I'll have that forever. That is the greatest gift of all." But this win carried a weight far heavier, far more personal than anyone expected. Because standing just a few feet away from the celebration was someone who meant more to Robert than any trophy ever could, his big sister, Bindi Irwin. And not just as a family supporter, not just as someone cheering him on, but as someone who, 10 years earlier to the exact day, lifted the same Mirrorball Trophy after winning season 21 of Dancing with the Stars. The thunderous applause around them seemed almost symbolic, almost spiritual, as if the universe itself was honoring the Irwin family legacy. So when Robert looked toward the audience and saw Bindi, everything inside him cracked open. "My sister's here," he said softly. "I remember watching her win right here in this room, 10 years ago to the day." The idea that both siblings, children of the late Steve Irwin, the global wildlife icon, had now earned their Mirrorball trophies on the same stage, under the same lights, celebrating the same journey, wasn't just emotional, it was monumental. "To follow in her footsteps and represent my family's legacy," he added, his voice trembling, "is everything. But if you thought this night belonged only to Robert, think again, because he wasn't about to let the spotlight shine on him alone. He immediately turned to his partner, his mentor, his coach, his unlikely sister figure throughout this wild journey, Witney Carson. And with a sincerity that shook the entire fandom, he said, 'This is so deserved for Witney. She is the greatest, and I have admired her through this process so much. I'm so proud.' And the world agreed. Social media exploded with support for Witney Carson, praising her choreography, her creativity, and her emotional connection with Robert. A connection that clearly ran much deeper than the ballroom floor, because Witney wasn't just teaching steps or technique. She was guiding Robert through the emotional landscape of performing, competing, and growing under the pressure of weekly eliminations. And in many ways, he was guiding her too. When Denny Directo turned to Witney during the interview, asking what this win meant to her, especially since she last won the show 11 years ago, Dancing with Alfonso Ribeiro, her response startled everyone. "It means everything to me," she revealed, her voice full of emotion. "This season, Robert really changed me. He lit a fire back into me that had been dimmed for a minute. It was a confession that stunned the ballroom because it hinted at something far more personal, something deeper than the weekly routines and rehearsals." She wasn't just talking about the show. She was talking about rediscovering herself. "I feel like this experience with you," she continued, turning to Robert, "has been amazing, and I'm your friend and sister forever." In that moment, viewers could feel the authenticity between them, the kind of bond forged under pressure, built through struggle, strengthened by vulnerability. Their partnership wasn't just a competitive pairing, it had become a story of healing, renewal, and trust. And then came the playful twist, the moment that lit up the entire interview and sent fans spiraling into laughter. The hosts jokingly asked Robert whether now that the season was over, he was finally going to open up those private messages, filling his social media inbox. The young champion laughed nervously, dodging the question with a grin that instantly went viral. "I don't know," he said, flustered. "I don't know about that." The hesitation was adorable, genuine, and deeply on brand for the humble, grounded 21-year-old who grew up in the most public spotlight imaginable, yet somehow remained untouched by fame's darker edges. Behind the humor, though, was a bigger story. A story about growth, legacy, and transformation. Because the truth is, this victory wasn't just about dancing. It wasn't just about technique, choreography, or entertainment value. Robert Irwin's win symbolized the next chapter of a young man who has spent his entire life honoring his father's dream. It was about stepping onto a completely different kind of stage and proving that he could shine just as brightly as he does under the Australian sun at the Australia Zoo. It was about stepping into adulthood, into independence, and into a world where he continues the Irwin legacy in his own unique way. For many fans, watching Robert dance each week felt almost surreal. Here was the boy who once held baby crocodiles on the Crocodile Hunter Diaries, now performing fiery salsas, emotional contemporary routines, and high-octane jives under the scrutiny of judges, commentators, and millions of viewers. Every step he took felt like a tribute to his family, to his father, to the global community of wildlife lovers who grew up watching. Him and Bindi grow up on screen, and every routine carried a piece of who he is. Brave, passionate, gentle, unfiltered, and full of heart. Meanwhile, Witney Carson's journey this season surprised everyone. Many critics had speculated in recent years that she had lost some of the spark that made her one of the show's top-tier professional dancers. But with Robert, she rediscovered herself. Her creativity, her artistry, her hunger for excellence. The choreography she delivered this season was among the best of her entire career, from powerful emotional routines to explosive, high-energy finales. And audiences felt that passion in every move she crafted. Together, they became the unexpected heart of season 34. A duo whose chemistry wasn't romantic, but soulful, authentic, and deeply inspiring. They mirrored each other's strengths, lifted each other through weaknesses, and found an emotional balance that captivated viewers week after week. The reaction from fans was immediate. Hashtags celebrating their win trended worldwide. Wildlife lovers, dance enthusiasts, and longtime fans of the Irwin family came together in what felt like a global digital celebration. The win wasn't just popular, it was universally beloved. People weren't just cheering for a talented dancer. They were cheering for a good human being, someone who has spent his entire life giving back, protecting endangered animals, and honoring a legacy built on compassion and courage. Industry insiders also began weighing in, calling this victory one of the most meaningful in the show's history. Many experts praised how Robert brought authenticity back to Dancing with the Stars, proving that heart sometimes matters more than perfect technique. Others pointed out the beautiful symbolism of two siblings, not actors, not musicians, not influencers, but wildlife warriors, both winning Hollywood's most coveted dance trophy a decade apart. And then there were those who saw the win as a turning point in Robert's career, hinting at a possible shift into mainstream entertainment. As the interview wrapped, as the lights dimmed, as the ballroom emptied into the Los Angeles night, something lingered in the air, something warm, something hopeful, something unforgettable. It wasn't just the end of Dancing with the Stars season 34. It was the beginning of a new chapter, not only for Robert Irwin, but for the legacy he carries with him wherever he goes. "Enjoy, you guys," the host said as the interview came to a close. And with the Mirrorball Trophy in hand, with his partner by his side, and with his sister cheering in the crowd, Robert Irwin walked off that stage ready for whatever comes next.